In 2025, something massive is happening behind Koenigsegg's closed doors, and it's not just another upgrade. No one else can do what we're doing. If you want that, you can't get it anywhere else. Words like new engine, wipe the floor, and electric cars have started circling after a cryptic statement from the CEO himself. We never stop developing it because it gives enormous freedom to the combustion engine. No flashy launch, no teaser campaign, just a quiet decision that could upend everything we thought we knew about the future of performance. If you think the EV race is already won, think again, because Koenigsegg might be about to pull off the unthinkable, and no one's ready for what's coming next. So frist o fall, subscribe so we can reach 2,000 subscribers and stay ahead with Koenigsegg's groundbreaking innovations, like their game-changing new engine that's set to redefine performance and wipe the floor with electric cars in 2025. The art of speed, Koenigsegg's obsession with power. From the beginning, Koenigsegg never followed trends, while the rest of the automotive world was busy chasing lap times with bloated engineering teams and badge prestige. Christian von Koenigsegg was building rockets disguised as cars out of a small factory in Ängelholm, Sweden. No big marketing budgets, no legacy to coast on, just one relentless mission: create the fastest, most innovative machines on the planet and prove that one company could out-engineer the giants. The first car, the CC8S, was a warning shot. Then came the CCR, which briefly held the title of world's fastest production car. But it wasn't until the Gemera RS that the world really started paying attention. In 2017, it shattered the production car speed record, 277.9 miles per hour without breaking a sweat. It didn't just beat the competition, it embarrassed them. While everyone else talked traction control, Koenigsegg was out there rewriting physics. But this obsession with speed was never just about straight-line performance. Every detail, from the monocoque tub to the triplex suspension, reflected a philosophy. Everything must serve performance, and anything that doesn't goes. No fluff, no gimmicks, just raw engineering. And that's what separates Koenigsegg. It's not just about horsepower. It's about control, balance, ingenuity. Then came the Gemera, a car that didn't even have a traditional gearbox. Koenigsegg called it direct drive, a revolutionary setup that eliminated the need for gear changes entirely. The result? Seamless acceleration with hybrid torque that could turn your insides to soup. And yet, even with 3 electric motors and a twin-turbo V8 under the hood, it somehow felt elegant, like the world's fastest grand piano. Of course, none of this would matter without the man behind it. Christian isn't your typical CEO. He's part inventor, part speed freak, part philosopher. He once said, "Why do we build fast cars? Because we can." But that doesn't mean it's reckless. There's always purpose behind the madness. He's obsessed with thermodynamics, power-to-weight ratios, and how to extract more energy from less fuel. He's also one of the few people who can sketch out an engine idea on a napkin and then watch it come to life 6 months later. Behind every Koenigsegg model is a years-long process of trial, failure, reinvention, and finally, perfection. And once it hits perfection, they start again. Because in their world, good enough means nothing. It's why they handcraft components other manufacturers outsource, why they invent their own carbon fiber technology, why they built a 3D printer just to make titanium exhaust tips. Every shortcut avoided is a second shaved off the track. That mindset is what turned Koenigsegg from a boutique supercar maker into a name that makes Ferrari and Bugatti lose sleep. And while the industry is now charging headfirst into an electric future, Koenigsegg has remained cautious, not reluctant, just methodical. Because Christian knows something that many don't. Speed alone doesn't win the war, innovation does. And sometimes the fastest car isn't the one that hits 300 miles per hour on paper, but the one that dares to ask, what if we did things completely differently? Koenigsegg is always chasing that question, and lately, it seems they've been working on an answer that's unlike anything we've seen before. One that might not just raise the bar, but flip the entire game on its head. But we'll get to that. Right now, all you need to know is this. Koenigsegg is up to something again. Enter the Gemera, family car, track monster. When Koenigsegg announced the Gemera, people thought it was a prank. A four-seater grand tourer from the same brand that builds cars with fighter jet doors and speeds that scare NASA? It didn't make sense. Until it did. Because Koenigsegg wasn't just making a family car, they were making the family car. One that could fit 4 adults comfortably, carry luggage, and still out-accelerate a Bugatti Chiron. The Gemera wasn't a compromise, it was a dare. This wasn't a car built for balance, it was built for contradiction. Luxury meets lunacy, practicality fused with power. And it all started under the skin. Instead of going with a big V12 or a bulky EV setup, Koenigsegg introduced the world to the tiny friendly giant, or TFG for short, a 2.0-liter, 3-cylinder engine that alone turned heads. But what dropped jaws was what it could do. 600 horsepower thanks to twin turbos and camless free valve tech. No cams, no belts, just software controlling every valve in real time. The engine could shut off cylinders mid-drive or breathe differently depending on how hard you pushed it. It wasn't just small, it was smart and terrifyingly efficient. Of course, this wasn't just about internal combustion. Koenigsegg knew the future leaned electric, so they added 3 motors, one for each rear wheel and one on the crankshaft. Together with the TFG, the Gemera produced up to 1,700 horsepower. It could run purely electric, purely gas, or mix both for brutal acceleration. And despite being a plug-in hybrid, it didn't care much about your range anxiety. It offered over 600 miles of total range with a full tank and charge, that's Stockholm to Paris, in one go, without slowing down. Then came the design. At first glance, it looked like a Koenigsegg, sleek, low, aggressive. But then you noticed the massive clamshell doors, no B-pillar. The whole side of the car opened like a sci-fi airlock, revealing a cabin that felt more like a Scandinavian lounge than a hypercar. 4 individual bucket seats, full infotainment for front and back, cup holders. Yes, actual cup holders in a Koenigsegg. The absurdity wasn't lost on anyone. What made it work, though, was the control. Despite its size and weight, the Gemera wasn't a boat. It handled like a car half its size, thanks to active rear-wheel steering, torque vectoring, and a carbon monocoque chassis. It was still a Koenigsegg at heart, sharp, responsive, alive. And while other manufacturers were still trying to figure out how to make electric SUVs handle like sports cars, Koenigsegg had already made a 4-seater that could drift around corners and still seat grandma in the back. But as always with Koenigsegg, there's more going on than meets the eye. Even the original Gemera spec wasn't the final form. Whispers from the factory hinted at a version with even more power, a different engine, something that would change the entire platform. And in 2023, they confirmed it, offering the hot V8 from the Jesko as an option. That meant 2,300 horsepower in a family car. No, seriously. It wasn't about chasing EVs, it was about staying ahead of them. And while the world kept waiting for Koenigsegg to go fully electric, the company kept showing the industry there's still a smarter way, a more thrilling way, one that doesn't rely on heavy batteries or artificial noise, but real mechanical drama with just enough volts to make the whole thing even scarier. The Gemera proved that Koenigsegg could do the unthinkable, blend everyday usability with record-breaking performance. But according to insiders, the Gemera might also be the testing ground for something even more extreme, because behind the scenes, a new formula has been brewing, one that doesn't just push boundaries, it ignores them entirely, breaking the mold, the dark matter motor. Koenigsegg's never been shy about doing things their own way, but with the dark matter motor, they didn't just step out of the box, they vaporized it. When the company unveiled this single electric motor setup for the production version of the Gemera, the message was clear. Forget what you know about EV powertrains. This was something else entirely. First, the basics, on paper at least. Dark matter is a six-phase axial flux motor, combining radial and axial flux designs into one extremely compact, brutally efficient unit. It delivers 800 horsepower and 1,250 newton-meters of torque. That's from a single motor. No dual motors, no gimmicks, just raw, concentrated power in a package small enough to fit inside a carry-on bag. If that sounds like science fiction, welcome to Koenigsegg. Most manufacturers are still relying on traditional three-phase motors. They're reliable, sure, but limited in terms of scalability and efficiency. Koenigsegg's six-phase architecture spreads the workload more evenly, reducing heat and increasing torque delivery across the board. That means fewer moving parts, less heat soak, and more consistent performance, whether you're cruising through town or launching off the line like your life depends on it. The design isn't just clever, it's strategic. Koenigsegg engineers realized they didn't need multiple motors to get insane torque vectoring or precise power control. The dark matter unit works in perfect harmony with Koenigsegg's bespoke torque converter and inverter tech, offering real-time response with almost no energy loss. Every surge of power is immediate, every corner handled with surgical control. And because of the motor's compact size, it frees up space for better packaging, weight distribution, and most importantly, more room for Koenigsegg to tinker with other systems. What makes this even more significant is what it replaced. The original Gemera prototype used 3 electric motors, one on each rear wheel and one on the crankshaft. That setup worked well, but it added weight and complexity. With dark matter, Koenigsegg achieved better output using just one motor. That kind of leap doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you question everything and rebuild it from scratch. Christian von Koenigsegg himself described the dark matter system as an entirely new direction, and he meant it. It's not just a component, it's a philosophy. Efficiency over excess, precision over bulk. Where others throw more hardware at the problem, Koenigsegg refines, streamlines, simplifies, without compromise. It's the kind of engineering that makes other companies nervous, not because they can't understand it, but because they can't replicate it. Of course, it's not just about numbers on a spec sheet. The real beauty of dark matter is how it feels. Instant torque, no lag, no hesitation, just quiet, violent acceleration that seems to bypass the usual laws of physics. It's what an electric motor should have always been. An enabler, not a limiter. In a world where most EVs start to feel eerily similar, Koenigsegg just reminded everyone that electricity doesn't have to be boring. But here's the thing. Dark matter isn't the finish line, it's the setup. Because if Koenigsegg went to all this trouble for an 800 horsepower motor in a hybrid application, what else are they working on behind closed doors? If this is the production version, what's in the prototype lab? What's being tested on the dynos that no one's allowed to see? According to internal murmurs, the dark matter motor may only be scratching the surface of what Koenigsegg is planning. Some say it's a stepping stone, a bridge, a precursor to something even more radical. And Christian? He's been tight-lipped, except for one cryptic comment. We've only just begun exploring what this technology can really do. The hot V8, a monster hidden in a hybrid. If the dark matter motor was Koenigsegg's love letter to electric precision, the optional V8 engine for the Gemera, the so-called hot V8, was their unapologetic return to brute force combustion. The name alone sounds angry, and for good reason. This wasn't just any V8, it was borrowed straight from the Jesco, one of the most savage hypercars ever built. Except now, it was being offered in a car, with cup holders. At a time when most automakers are quietly retiring internal combustion, Koenigsegg did something no one expected. They doubled down. The original Gemera was already impressive with its 3-cylinder free-valve engine, but Koenigsegg knew some customers wanted more. So they redesigned the Gemera's rear end, ditched the backseat storage space and crammed a twin-turbo 5.0-liter V8 into the chassis. The result? A family car with 1,500 horsepower from the engine alone. No compromises, no artificial noise, just real, unapologetic, hair-raising sound. And here's the kicker. It wasn't even the whole story. When paired with the dark matter electric motor, this new version of the Gemera delivered a combined output of 2,300 horsepower and 2,750 Newton-meters of torque. That's not just a number. That's power in excess of what most full-size semis generate, in a 4-seater on road-legal tires. But raw power wasn't the only thing that made the hot V8 special. It was how Koenigsegg built it. They didn't just recycle an old engine and call it a day. The hot V8 was carefully modified to integrate with the Gemera's hybrid system. Lighter than expected, lower center of gravity, built for responsiveness as much as speed. And every single component was designed in-house, from the turbos to the crankshaft. Nothing was off the shelf. Even the sound had its own character. While electric motors hum and whir, the hot V8 roars, deep, angry, guttural, the kind of noise that sets off car alarms in parking garages and leaves passengers with wide eyes and weak knees. Koenigsegg could have muted it. They could have added artificial tones like everyone else. But they didn't, because why would you dull the soundtrack of a fire-breathing V8? That blend of past and future is what makes this setup so disruptive. On paper, it's the opposite of what the industry is chasing. But in practice, it might be the smartest move Koenigsegg's ever made. EVs are quick, sure, but many of them feel sterile. The thrill fades once the novelty wears off. What Koenigsegg offers is a reminder. Driving isn't just about numbers. It's about experience, engagement, feeling like you're part of something alive. The hot V8 proves that hybrids don't have to feel like compromises. In Koenigsegg's world, a hybrid is a tactical advantage, a way to blend the explosive power of combustion with the instant torque of electric drive. You get the best of both without the limitations of either. And unlike many plug-in hybrids that feel patched together, the Gemera system was designed from the ground up to work as one fluid unit. Still, as extreme as this engine is, something about the way Koenigsegg presented it felt temporary, almost like it was a stepping stone. Christian von Koenigsegg never said it was the final word. In fact, in interviews, he carefully referred to it as one of several configurations the company was exploring, which begs the question, why create something this powerful only to hint there's more? Maybe the hot V8 wasn't meant to be the crown jewel. Maybe it's just the loud distraction before the quiet revolution, something to keep people entertained while the real breakthrough is being perfected in secret. Because if Koenigsegg is offering this much firepower now, what are they getting ready to drop next? Koenigsegg's silent war on the EV industry. Christian von Koenigsegg isn't known for throwing punches. He's known for building machines that do the talking. But if you look closely, he's been waging a quiet war against the electric vehicle industry, not with loud declarations, but with careful moves, strategic tech, and one persistent question: is full electrification really the answer? On the surface, Koenigsegg appears to be in line with the future. Hybrids, advanced electric motors, even plug-in capability. But beneath the carbon fiber body panels, there's resistance. Not to innovation, but to conformity. While the industry rushes to go all electric, Koenigsegg keeps asking what everyone else seems to be ignoring. What are we sacrificing in the process? Christian has voiced it in interviews, never too blunt, but always clear. He believes electric cars can be brilliant, but they can also be boring. He's not impressed by neck-snapping 0 to 60 times alone. He's interested in connection, engagement, and engineering elegance. And he knows that most EVs today are weighed down, literally, by massive batteries and energy loss, often requiring complex software just to make them feel remotely exciting. So Koenigsegg took a different path. Instead of going fully electric, they leaned into ultra-efficient hybrids. The Gemera, for example, skipped the gearbox and married a twin-turbo V8-3 electric motors, resulting in seamless acceleration without any gear changes. The Gemera took that idea further, offering either a camless 3-cylinder hybrid or a monster V8 paired with an 800-horsepower electric motor. They didn't copy Tesla or Rimac. They built a system that reflects their own vision of performance. And performance is where things get interesting. While many EVs are marketed as the new kings of speed, Koenigsegg has quietly beaten them at their own game. Their hybrids are lighter, their systems more efficient, and their top speeds still out of reach for most electric-only vehicles. In testing, Koenigsegg setups maintain performance over time. Less thermal fade, less battery stress, less of that hollow feeling that sometimes comes with a silent, soulless ride. But Christian's critique goes deeper. It's not just about weight or handling, it's about what kind of future we're building. He's spoken candidly about the downsides of battery production, the environmental costs, the mining, the resource limitations. In contrast, Koenigsegg is experimenting with biofuels, synthetic fuels, and lighter energy storage solutions that don't rely on rare earth metals. To him, a sustainable future shouldn't just be clean, it should be clever. Of course, he knows where the industry is heading. Regulations are tightening, EV mandates are coming. That's why Koenigsegg is investing heavily in electric technology, but on their own terms. They're not just building electric motors, they're redefining them. The dark matter motor is proof of that. Small, efficient, brutally powerful, and designed to eliminate the need for multiple heavy motors altogether. The irony. While the rest of the auto world is spending billions to catch up with Tesla, Koenigsegg is already operating in a different dimension. Their motors aren't just efficient, they're integrated. Their hybrids don't just comply with regulations, they outperform everything around them. And Christian? He's not chasing trends. He's setting new ones. Still, there's something else brewing. Something that hasn't been revealed yet. Insiders have reported strange test rigs, patents with abstract diagrams, quiet recruitment of energy specialists from outside the automotive world. There's a feeling inside the company, hard to pin down but impossible to ignore, that something big is coming. And it won't just be an update or a facelift. It'll be a challenge, a statement, maybe even a declaration of war against the idea that electric cars already won. The decision. Something changed at Koenigsegg in 2025. After months of uncharacteristic silence, the kind that only ever means something big is brewing, Christian von Koenigsegg finally emerged. Measured, calm, and, as always, precise. Sitting across from a small group of engineers and close partners, he leaned forward and said the words that would set the tone for everything that followed. I made my decision. It's time. What followed wasn't a teaser or a flashy concept. It was an engine, a brand new combustion engine. Not a modified V8, not a scaled-up TFG, and definitely not a placeholder for electrification. This was Koenigsegg's answer to a question no one else in the industry seemed brave enough to ask anymore. What if combustion still had more to give? They built it from scratch, compact, aggressive, and impossibly efficient. It runs on synthetic e-fuel, produces near-zero emissions, and weighs less than any comparable power plant Koenigsegg has ever developed. The design is entirely new, short-stroke, high revving with quad turbos, and a free-breathing valve system that responds in milliseconds to driver input. Every component was optimized for responsiveness, thermal efficiency, and power delivery. And the power figures? Let's just say this engine alone puts out numbers that most electric hypercars still struggle to reach with dual motors. But it's not about raw output. It's about the feel, the way it pulls from idle, the balance it brings when paired with Koenigsegg's already cutting-edge electric drive systems. It doesn't replace the electric motor. It elevates it. Christian explained, We weren't interested in building a nostalgia piece. We wanted to create something that could outperform what's out there now and lead where others are following. And then, with a slight grin, Koenigsegg's CEO said the line that's now echoing across the automotive world. This new engine will wipe the floor with all electric cars in 2025. It wasn't bravado, it was confidence, backed by years of obsessive development. While other manufacturers leaned harder into batteries, Koenigsegg went back to first principles, rethinking what an engine could be in a world obsessed with silent speed and synthetic thrills. The result isn't a rebellion, it's a revelation. This isn't the end of Koenigsegg's hybrid future, it's the foundation of it. An engine that brings the emotion back to performance. An engine that doesn't just survive the electric age, but challenges it. And if Christian's right, it may have just redefined what comes next. So now the question is, if Koenigsegg just built a machine that outperforms every EV and keeps the soul of driving alive, is the electric revolution already outdated before it even peaked?